Digital dividends, strengthening the analog foundation of the digital revolution. Accelerating growth, more trade, higher productivity, and greater competition with Boutheina Guermazi.
My name is Boutheina Guermazi, and I'm a practice manager at the World Bank Transport and ICT Global Practice. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to learn with us on the Model 2 of the MOOC, namely the role of digital technologies in accelerating growth. We all have heard that digital technology creates opportunities to accelerate growth. However, these are often missed opportunities because firms operate in sectors such as wholesale trade, finance, transport, or public utilities, where technology's impact would be greatest, but which are also most protected from innovative competitors. The World Development Report findings show that firms facing more competition use digital technology more intensively and effectively, as it enables them to reduce their costs and therefore to outperform their competitors. In this module, we will discuss with practical examples how digital technologies can accelerate growth through promoting more trade, higher productivity, and greater competition. So what is the framework? The firms across the world are becoming more connected, and the internet plays a key role in creating market opportunities. For instance, the share of firms using broadband internet in lower middle-income countries rose from 39% to 68% from 2006-2009 to 2010-2014. And the growth rate and valuation of internet firms across the world are surging as well. Less visibly, but more importantly, digital technologies have transformed traditional production structures, facilitating new, more cost-effective processes. Indeed, the vast majority of efficiency gains emerge outside the ICT sector, where firms use the internet to sell and market their products online and share real-time information with suppliers to minimize their inventory and with customers to optimize their services. The framework to look at the impact of digital technologies and internet, the impact of this technology on economic growth, is mediated through three mechanisms: inclusion, efficiency, and innovation. Digital technology promotes the inclusion of firms in the world economy by enabling more firms to trade new products to new destinations. Digital technology raises efficiency by allowing firms to make better use of their capital and labor. So digital technology enhances innovation by enabling firms to exploit scale effects through online platforms and services that compete with conventional business models in retail, transport, lodging, banking, just to name a few. These three mechanisms boost growth by expanding trade, increasing capital and labor utilization, and intensifying competition. The benefits are neither automatic nor assured. Despite great opportunities, firms' use of digital technologies differ substantially across countries due to the variation in skills and infrastructure and the extent of barriers to competition and market entry. Firms' use of digital technology also varies with barriers to competition across sectors in the same country. For example, the business process outsourcing in the Philippines has few entry barriers, and firms use digital technology intensively. The retail sector, on the other hand, faces substantial restrictions to entry and is dominated by incumbent firms, with few of them offering e-commerce. The regulators need to level the regulatory regime to guarantee free market entry, prevent market shares from becoming too concentrated. The greater digital adoption also needs to be accompanied by unified standards, full interoperability, and competition across platforms and contacts. Let's talk about connectivity first. The adoption of broadband internet has increased in firms in all country income groups. The share of firms in lower middle income countries using broadband internet rose from 39% between 2006 and 2009 to 68% between 2010 and 2014. The share of low-income countries between 2010 and 14 is still fairly low. It's only 38%, but with very notable exceptions. Interestingly, more productive firms are more likely to adopt the internet and use it more intensively. The percentage of firms having a website and selling or buying goods or services online tends to increase with firm productivity in all country income groups. Developing countries such as Vietnam have invested heavily in the rollout of broadband internet infrastructure in recent years. As a result, the share of manufacturing of service firms in Vietnam using the internet for business activity rose to 71% in 2007 and 86% in 2011. Internet access was up almost uniformly across all provinces, as we can see in the map here. In boosting trade, the internet reduces transaction costs, allowing firms to enter new markets, enhance their efficiency, and exploit economies of scale, leading to innovation. It does this by reducing information frictions, search costs, and the cost to communicate. The decline can be dramatic if firms will adapt their business models to automate data-intensive transactions, generating economies of scale. The internet makes it easier to reach new markets and thereby increases the extensive margin of trade. When more firms start to export and more products get exported, this will create room also for smaller businesses. Looking forward, the rise of online marketplaces can accelerate the integration of developing countries into world markets, opening substantial opportunities for trade and future growth. That advantage of online platforms is that they allow smaller firms to become exporters. The firms selling on eBay in Chile, Jordan, Peru, South Africa are younger and have smaller market share than firms in the offline markets. Businesses can locate different stages of their production in different host countries to achieve greater efficiency in each stage. This unbundling of tasks allows firms to outsource production processes and services to developing countries at lower costs, which in turn increases trade in intermediate goods and places more importance on global supply chains. Crowdsourcing information through mobile phone applications is helping farmers in Tanzania to prevent the outbreak of diseases. In Tanzania's Lake Zone, 60 groups of farmers from 10 districts belonging to the Digital Early Warning Network prevent the outbreak of the cassava disease by crowdsourcing information. Online services and platforms eliminate search and communication costs, increase price transparency, and lower the fixed costs to start a business. This enables new startups to exploit scale economies from the beginning, supporting their rapid growth. The transaction cost for each new customer is almost zero for some service, enabling scale effects and increasing the profits from innovation. This inspires new business models based on the internet in services ranging from retail trade, transport, and logistics to tourism marketplaces, price comparator websites, and the sharing economy. Good example is ride-sharing services. They enhance competition and the efficiency of transport services. But this also forces taxi companies around the world to reduce their prices or improve their services. Taxi companies in various cities have begun to develop joint smartphone applications, enabling online payment, rating, and vehicle tracking in real time to compete with the ride-sharing services. The trend is not confined only to high-income countries. While Uber operates in more than 57 countries and 300 cities, regional competitors have emerged, such as Lyft and Sidecar in the United States, Halo and BlaBlaCar in Europe, KDDD Taxi in China, among others. Despite the opportunities, firms' use of digital technology differs substantially across sectors and countries. The differences prevail when comparing the ICT intensities of the same sector across countries with a similar GDP per capita. This divergence in intensity of internet use for firms in the same sector is confirmed, for example, by more detailed survey data from 6 African countries in 2014. The share of manufacturing and service firms using the internet ranged from 22% in Tanzania to 73% in Kenya. The share of retail firms that sell their products online varies substantially across Latin American countries with a similar GDP per capita. In Bolivia, 52% of all firms with at least 5 employees in the retail sector sold their products online in 2010. Peru had a slightly higher GDP per capita in 2010, but only 13% of retail firms with at least 5 employees sold online. As we know, the digital economy can be highly concentrated. Facebook is the leading social network. Amazon sold 40% of all e-books in 2014. Google is the dominant search engine in most countries. What matters for antitrust regulators, however, is not the concentration of a sector per se, but the entry costs for new entrants or switching costs for consumers. Network effects or anti-competitive behavior can create barrier for startups. For instance, the more people who use Facebook, the higher the value for users to create content on its website. It is therefore vital to recognize that countries need policies to encourage competition. Domestic or foreign barriers to entry and competition reduce firms' incentives to invest in digital technologies or complementary skills and reorganization. Without competitive pressure, private firms lack incentives to invest in costly or risky new technologies. The complementary factors at the firm level correspond to competition policies at the country level. Firms are more likely to invest in skills or organizational restructuring if they are subject to market competition. The internet promotes competition, which encourages more firms to use the internet, creating a potential virtuous cycle. So, competition is not only a complementary factor, but also a mechanism for the internet to increase growth. In some developing countries with an institutional environment that safeguards competition and easy market entry will more likely harness the full growth opportunities of digital technologies and catch up faster with high-income countries. But countries will more likely remain poor if the institutional environment allows firms to obtain profits by lobbying for protection rather than investing in new digital technologies. I thank you for your attention and encourage you to explore more on this area, which is perhaps the most impacted by digital technologies.